Vasily Smyslov. Vasily Vasilyevich Smyslov, Russian. Vasily Vasilyevich Smyslov, 24 March 1921 – 27 March 2010, was a Soviet and Russian chess grandmaster who was world chess champion from 1957 to 1958. He was a candidate for the World Chess Championship on 8 occasions: 1948, 1950, 1953, 1956, 1959, 1965, 1983, and 1985. Smyslov twice tied for first place at the Soviet Championships 1949, 1955. In 5 European Team Championships, Smyslov won 10 gold medals. Smyslov remained active and successful in competitive chess well after the age of 60. Despite failing eyesight, he remained active in the occasional composition of chess problems and studies until shortly before his death in 2010. Besides chess, he was an accomplished baritone singer. Early years. Smyslov first became interested in chess at the age of 6. His father, Vasily Osipovich Smyslov, worked as an engineering technician and had represented the St. Petersburg Technical Institute in intercollegiate chess competitions. Smyslov's father had also studied chess for a time under the tutelage of Mikhail Chigorin, and the senior Smyslov became the boy's first teacher. The elder Smyslov gave his son a copy of Alexander Alekhine's book My Best Games of Chess 1908–1923, and the future world champion would later write that this book became his constant reference. He would also write that, "I was later to read everything that my father had in his library, Dufresne's handbook, separate numbers of the Soviet chess magazines, Chess and Chess Sheet, the textbooks of Lasker and Capablanca, and the collections of games of Soviet and international tournaments. The games of the great Russian chess master M. I. Chigorin made and indulged." In 1938, at age 17, Smyslov won the USSR Junior Championship. That same year, he tied for first-second places in the Moscow City Championship with 12-1/2/17. However, Smyslov's first attempt at adult competition outside his own city fell short. He placed 12th–13th in the Leningrad-Moscow International Tournament of 1939 with 8/17 in an exceptionally strong field. In the Moscow Championship of 1939–40, Smyslov placed second–third with 9/13. War years. In his first Soviet final, the 1940 USSR Chess Championship Moscow, URSCH-12, he performed exceptionally well for third place with 13/19, finishing ahead of the reigning champion Mikhail Botvinnik. This tournament was the strongest Soviet final up to that time, as it included several players, such as Paul Kears and Vladis Miknes, from countries annexed by the USSR as part of the Nazi-Soviet Pact of 1939. The Soviet Federation held a further tournament of the top 6 from the 1940 event, and this was called the 1941 Absolute Championship of the USSR, one of the strongest tournaments ever organized. The format saw each player meet his opponents 4 times. The players were Botvinnik, Kears, Smyslov, Isaac Boleslavsky, Igor Bendersky, and Andrew Lilienthal. Smyslov scored 10/20 for third place, behind Botvinnik and Kears. This proved that Smyslov was of genuine world-class grandmaster strength at age 20, a very rare achievement at that time. World War II forced a halt to most international chess, but several tournaments involving Soviet players only were still organized. Smyslov was exempted from military service due to being severely nearsighted, and he won the 1942 Moscow Championship outright with a powerful 12/15. At Kuibyshev 1942, he placed second with 8/11. In a strong field at Sverdlovsk 1943, Smyslov tied for third–fourth places with 8/14. In the 1943–44 Moscow Championship, Smyslov tied for third–fourth with 11-1/2/16. He finished second in the 1944 USSR Championship at Moscow, URSCH13 with 10-1/2/16. He emerged as champion from the 1944-45 Moscow Championship with 13/16. By this juncture, Smyslov had advanced into the group of the top three Soviet players, along with Botvinnik and Kiers, who was playing in Nazi-occupied Europe during the war. As the war ended, organized chess picked up again, but Smyslov's form hit a serious slump in the immediate post-war period. In the 1945 USSR Championship at Moscow, URSCH14, Smyslov was in the middle of the very powerful field with 8-1/2/17. The winner was Botvinnik, with Boleslavsky and the new star David Bronstein occupying second and third places. At Tallinn 1945, Smyslov had the worst result of his career, scoring just 6-1/2/15 in a not especially strong field. It was little better in the Moscow Championship of 1945-46, as he could only score 7-1/2/15 for a tie of 7th-11th places as Bronstein won. Then, in the Moscow Championship of 1946, Smyslov scored just 8-1/2/15 for a tie of 3rd-6th places, as Bronstein won again. During this period, he scored just 31/62 in those four tournaments for 50%. Nevertheless, Smyslov's earlier strong results secured him one of the 5 Soviet places in the first really strong post-war international tournament at Groningen, Netherlands, in August 1946. This event, the Howard Staunton Memorial, was won by Botvinnik with 14-1/2/19, half a point ahead of former world champion Max Euwe. Smyslov finished third with 12-1/2/19, and this confirmed his status as one of the world's top players. Smyslov found it tough going for the next while, however, once he was back playing in Soviet events. In the next Soviet Championship, URSCH15, Leningrad 1947, he tied for 3rd-4th places with 12/19, as Kiers won. At Parnu 1947, Smyslov scored 8/13 for a tied 4th-6th places, as Kiers won again. At Warsaw 1947, Smyslov scored 6/9 to tie for 2nd-5th places. The winner was Svetozar Gligorik. In the Mikhail Chigorin Memorial Tournament, Moscow 1947, Smyslov tied for 3rd-4th places with 10/15 as Botvinnik won. His results showed a consistent pattern of high finishes against strong company, but with virtually no tournament championships. Smyslov had never actually won an adult tournament other than the Moscow City Championship before he played in the 1948 World Championship Tournament. World Title Challenger. Smyslov was one of the 5 players selected to compete for the 1948 World Chess Championship Tournament. His selection was questioned in some quarters, but this criticism was amply rebutted when he finished second behind Mikhail Botvinnik with a score of 11/20. With his second-place finish from the 1948 World Championship, Smyslov was admitted directly into the 1950 Budapest Candidates Tournament without needing to play in qualifying events. Smyslov scored 10/18 for 3rd place, behind Bronstein and Boleslavsky, who tied for 1st place. Smyslov's 3rd place automatically qualified him into the next Candidates Tournament. He was awarded the International Grandmaster title in 1950 by FIDE on its inaugural list. After winning the Candidates Tournament in Zurich 1953 with 18/28, 2 points ahead of Kiers, Bronstein, and Samuel Reshevsky, Smyslov played a match with Botvinnik for the title the following year. Cited at Moscow, the match ended in a draw after 24 games, 7 wins each and 10 draws, meaning that Botvinnik retained his title. World Champion. Smyslov again won the Candidates Tournament at Amsterdam in 1956, which led to another World Championship match against Botvinnik in 1957. Assisted by trainers Vladimir Makaganov and Vladimir Smyslov won with the score 12-1/2, 9-1/2. The following year, Botvinnik exercised his right to a rematch and won the title back with a final score of 12-1/2, 10-1/2. Smyslov later said his health suffered during the return match as he came down with pneumonia, but he also acknowledged that Botvinnik had prepared very thoroughly. Over the course of the three World Championship matches, Smyslov had won 18 games to Botvinnik's 17 with 34 draws, and yet he was only champion for a year. Nonetheless, Smyslov wrote in his autobiographical games collection Smyslov's Best Games, "I have no reason to complain of my fate. I fulfilled my dream and became the seventh world champion in the history of chess." Later World Championships. Smyslov did not qualify for another World Championship, but continued to play in World Championship qualifying events. In 1959, he was a candidate, but finished fourth in the qualifying tournament held in Yugoslavia, which was won by the rising superstar Mikhail Tal. He missed out in 1962, but was back in 1964, following a first-place tie at the Amsterdam Interzonal with 17-23. However, he lost his first-round match to Efim Geller. In 1983, at the age of 62, he went through to the candidates' final, the match to determine who plays the champion, in that case Anatoly Karpov, losing 8-1/2, 4-1/2 at Vilnius 1984 to Garry Kasparov, who was 21 at the time, and who went on to beat Karpov to become world champion in 1980. He had beaten Zoltan Ridley 6-1/2, 4-1/2 in the semifinal, but drew his quarter-final match against Robert Hubner 7-7, with the advancing player Smyslov determined only by the spin of a roulette wheel. His final candidate's appearance was the Montpellier 1985 tournament, where he did not advance. Soviet Championships. Smyslov was a frequent competitor at the Soviet Championships and enjoyed some notable successes. In 1940, while still a teenager, he finished third behind Benderovsky and Lilienthal. At the 13th Championship in 1944, he placed second behind Botvinnik and in 1947 shared third with Benderovsky after Kiers and Bolslevsky. He was a joint winner of the contest in 1949 and again in 1955 with Bronstein and Geller respectively. Whilst the 1949 title was shared, the 1955 title was awarded to Geller after a play-off. Much later in his career, he showed that he could still mount a credible challenge. He took a share of third place in 1969 behind Petrosian and Polugivsky, and in 1971 was joint runner-up with Tal after Savon. He was ranked by FIDE as one of the top 15 players in the world from the late 1940s into the early 1980s, a stretch of almost 40 years. Post-war tournament record. Smyslov maintained an active tournament schedule throughout the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, registering many top three finishes in some of the most prestigious tournaments of the period. In 1950, he was second behind Katov at Venice, and in 1951 won the Chigorin Memorial, held in Leningrad. He shared third place with Botvinnik at Budapest Maroczy Memorial in 1952, after Kiers and Geller. In 1953, he won a training tournament in Gagra and finished third at Bucharest, behind Talas and Petrosian. At the 1954-55 edition of the Hastings Congress, he shared first place with Kiers. At Zagreb 1955, he was sole winner, 2 clear points ahead of the field. He continued his winning streak at Moscow's Alekhine Memorial in 1956, a victory shared with his constant rival Botvinnik. During this period, there were several triumphs in his city of birth. His good form continued throughout the 1960s. There were shares of second place at Dortmund 1961, after Taimanov, and at Mar del Plata 1962, after Polugivsky. He traveled again to Hastings at the end of 1962 and registered third place behind Gligorik and Katov. In 1963, he was second at Sachachigorin Memorial after Polugivsky. His visit to Havana's Capablanca Memorial in 1964 resulted in a share of first with the East German, Ullmann. He took outright first at the same tournament the following year. In 1966, there were victories at Mar del Plata and at the Rubinstein Memorial in Planica Zdroj. In 1967, he was second to Pfister at Monte Carlo, won at Moscow, and took second after Stein at the city's Alekhine Memorial Tournament. He placed third the same year at the Capablanca Memorial in Havana after Larsen and Taimanov, and finished third again at Palma de Mallorca 1967 and Monte Carlo 1968, the latter two events both being headed by Larsen and Botvinnik. This was also the year he repeated his previous success at Planica Zdroj, taking outright first. His next trip to Hastings also ended in triumph, as he took clear first at the 1968-69 edition. The 1960s drew to a close with victory at Monte Carlo 1969 shared with Portish and a share of third place at Skopje 1969 with Ullmann and Kalmov after Hort and Matulovic. While less prolific than in previous decades, Smyslov played many strong tournaments in the 1970s and even into the 1980s and beyond. He was joint runner-up with Hort, Gligoric and Korchnoi at Revenge/Zagreb 1970 after Pfister. A winner at Amsterdam in 1971, he came third at the Alekhine Memorial Moscow the same year after Karpov and Stein. At Las Palmas 1972, he was second equal with Larsen, behind Portish, and in 1973, topped the Capablanca Memorial in Cienfuegos. First place followed at Reykjavik in 1974 and at the Venice tournament of the same year. He finished second behind Liberzin. Then followed a second place at the Alexander Memorial Teesside in 1975 after Geller, a first place at Szolnok also 1975, and a multi-way share of second at the large Lone Pine Open of 1976 Petrosian won. He finished third behind Romanishin and Tal at Leningrad in 1977, when all three eclipsed the efforts of then world champion Anatoly Karpov. In 1978, he won at Sao Paulo and finished with a share of second at Buenos Aires after Anderson. As the 70s ended, he took first place at Berlin 1979, this time shared with Sisam. Notable outcomes for 1980 included joint first places at San Miguel with Brown, Pano, Jaime Emma, and at Copenhagen the Politiken Cup with Mikulkishin. The same year, he finished second at Bar after Petrosian and second at Baguio after Tara. At Moscow 1981, he joined Kasparov and Polugivsky in second place, behind Karpov. A further Hastings visit in 1981-82 resulted in a share of second place with Spielman after Kupreike. He was first at Graz in 1984 and first equal at Copenhagen Politiken Cup 1986 with Chernin, Pigusov, and Cicerna. He played at Reggio Emilia over the new year of 1986-87 and shared second spot with Hort, Chernin, and Spassky after Ribley. At Hastings in 1988-89, he took a share of third with Gulko and Spielman, behind Short and Korchnoi. Smyslov remained on FIDE's top 100 list until he was 70 years old. His tournament appearances were fewer in the 1990s, but results included a share of first place at Buenos Aires 1990 and a share of second at Malmö Sigemen in 1997 after Hellers. Team competition. Smyslov represented the Soviet Union a total of 9 times at Chess Olympiads from 1952 to 1972 inclusive, excepting only 1962 and 1966. He contributed strongly to team gold medal wins on each occasion he played, winning a total of 8 individual medals. His total of 17 Olympiad medals won, including team and individual medals, is an all-time Olympiad record, according to Olympics.org. At Helsinki 1952, He played second board and won the individual gold medal with 10-1/2/13. At Amsterdam 1954, he was again on second board, scored 9/12, and took the individual bronze medal. At Moscow 1956, he scored 8-1/2/13 on second board, but failed to win a medal. At Munich 1958, he made 9-1/2/13 on second board, good for the silver individual medal. At Leipzig 1960, he was dropped to first reserve and made a great score of 11-1/2/13, which won the gold medal. After missing out on selection in 1962, he returned for Tel Aviv 1964 on third board and won the gold medal with 11/13. He missed selection in 1966, but returned with a vengeance for Lugano 1968 and made a phenomenal 11/12 for another gold medal as second reserve. At Siegen 1970, he was first reserve and scored 8/11 for the bronze medal. His final Olympiad was Skopje 1972, where at age 51 he played third board and scored 11/14, good for the silver medal. His overall Olympiad score is an imposing 90 points in 113 games plus 69, 2 equals 42 for 79.6%. This performance is the fifth all-time best for players participating in at least 4 Olympiads. Smyslov also represented the USSR in 5 European Team Championships and emerged with a perfect medals record. He won 5 team gold medals and 5 board gold medals. His total score in these events was plus 19, 1 equals 15 for 75.7%. From Olympics.org, here is his European teams data. Vienna 1957, board 1, 3-1/2/6 plus 2-1 equals 3, board and team gold medals. Oberhausen 1961, board 5, 8/9 plus 7-0 equals 2 board and team gold medals. Hamburg 1965, board 4, 6/9 plus 3-0 equals 6 board and team gold medals. Kapfenberg 1970, board 5, 5/6 plus 4-0 equals 2 board and team gold medals. Bath, Somerset 1973, board 6, 4/5 plus 3-0 equals 2 board and team gold medals. Smyslov played for the USSR in both the 1970 and 1984 matches against teams representing the rest of the world. He was on board 6 at Belgrade in 1970 and on board 4 at London in 1984, with the Soviets winning both matches. Final years. In 1991, Smyslov won the inaugural World Senior Chess Championship. With a FIDE rating still around 2400 as of the year 2000, the 80-year-old grandmaster participated in what was to be his final tournament, the Klompendens Veterans vs. Ladies Tournament in Amsterdam. The highlight of the match was his rout of Zofia Polgar, leaving the all-time record between the two as 5-1 equals 3. Some of the matches were adjourned early as draws due to his failing eyesight, and Smyslov officially retired from competitive play after this tournament. His low rating after this event was 2494. Smyslov died of congestive heart failure in a Moscow hospital on the morning of 27 March 2010, 3 days after his 89th birthday. Reports circulated that his final years were lived in near poverty and that he could not afford badly needed eye surgery. It was also reported that Smyslov and his wife Nadja mostly lived off of income from renting their apartment out, and that there was nobody around to check up on or care for them. Legacy. Smyslov was known for his positional style, and, in particular, his precise handling of the endgame, but many of his games featured spectacular tactical shots as well. His opening repertoire was conventional for the 1950s-60s era, featuring mainly the Ruy Lopez and English opening as white, and the Sicilian defense and Nimzo Indian defense as black. He made enormous contributions to chess opening theory in many openings, including the English opening, Grunfeld defense, and the Sicilian defense. He has a variation of the closed Rye Lopez named after him. The line runs 1. F or F, 2 and F3 in C6. 3. BB5 6. 4. Baffer and F6 5.00 B7 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 6. Rione B5 7. BB3 D6 8. C3 009 8-3 H6. In the Grunfeld defense, the continuation 1. D4 and F6 2 C4 G6. 3 in C3 D5. 4 and F3 BG7. 5 QB3 DXC4. 6 QXC4 007. F or BG4 8. F3 and FD7 is known as the Smyslov variation and remains a major variation. Smyslov also successfully revived the fianchetto defense to the Rye Lopez 1 F or F 2 and F3 in C6. 3. BB5 G6 in the 1970s. In the Slav defense, the sideline 1 D4 D5 2 C4 C6. 3 in C3 and F6. 4 and F3 DX C4 5. A Fernasix is named the Smyslov variation. Finally, a variation of the King's Indian defense is named after him, which proceeds with the moves 1, D4 and F6 2, C4 G6, 3 in C3 BG7, 4 and F3 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 5 BG5 D6 6 F3. Stanley Kubrick named a character after him in his film 2001, A Space Odyssey. Opera singer. Smyslov was a baritone singer and only positively decided upon a chess career after a failed audition with the Bolshoi Theatre in 1950. He occasionally gave recitals during chess tournaments, often accompanied by fellow grandmaster and concert pianist Mark Taimanov. Smyslov once wrote that he tried to achieve harmony on the chessboard with each piece assisting the others. Smyslov recorded several areas during his life. Personal life. For more than 50 years, Smyslov was married to Nadezhda Smyslova, a woman 3 years his elder whose first husband was executed during the Stalin's purges in the early 1940s. They met in 1948. Nadezhda had a son from the first marriage, an aspiring chess player who competed at the World Junior Championships. Vasily and Nadezhda had no further children. Nadezhda often accompanied her husband at major tournaments, providing moral support. Books by Smyslov. Vasily Smyslov, 2003. Smyslov's Best Games, Volume 1, 1935-1957, Moravian Chess Publishing House. Vasily Smyslov, 2003. Smyslov's Best Games, Volume 2, 1958-1995, Moravian Chess Publishing House. Vasily Smyslov, 1997, and Game Virtuoso Cadogan. Vasily Smyslov, 1995. Smyslov's 125 Selected Games Modern Edition, published by Everman Chess. Grigory Levenfish and Vasily Smyslov, 1971, Rook Endings, Batsford Edition. Notable games: Tigran Petrosian vs. Vasily Smyslov, USSR Championship, Moscow 1949, Sicilian Defense, Scheveningen Variation Beatty 4-0 won the first meeting of two future world champions goes to Smyslov. Vasily Smyslov vs. FM Geller, USSR Championship, Moscow 1951, Sicilian Defense, Closed Variation B26. 1-0 Smyslov used the closed Sicilian periodically throughout his life and made many important improvements. Paul Kears vs. Vasily Smyslov, Zurich Candidates Tournament 1953, English Opening, Anglo-Indian Defense. Hedgehog System, a 17-0 in a vital late tournament encounter. Smyslov fights off Kears' very dangerous attack. Vasily Smyslov vs. Mikhail Botvinnik, World Championship match, Moscow 1954, Game 9, French defense. Win or variation c17, 1-0. Smyslov blows up one of the world champion's favorite variations with a queen sacrifice to score a stunning win. Mikhail Botvinnik vs Vasily Smyslov, World Championship match, Moscow 1954, Game 14, King's Indian defense. Fianchetto variation is 68-0-1 with one of the deepest pre-game home preparations ever seen. Smyslov unleashes a chain of tactical wizardry, including a queen sacrifice. Vasily Smyslov vs David Bronstein Candidates Tournament, Amsterdam 1956, English opening at 34. 1-0. The two players were fighting for the right to qualify late in the tournament, and Smyslov finds a way to come out on top. Vasily Smyslov vs Mikhail Tal Candidates Tournament, Yugoslavia 1959, Sicilian defense, Najdorf/Opsinski variation B92, 1-0. It was their first ever meeting, and the young star Tal gets a sharp lesson from the veteran. Robert Pfister vs Vasily Smyslov, Candidates Tournament, Yugoslavia 1959, Sicilian defense, Pfister/Sazin variation B86, 0-1. The 16-year-old Pfister had honed this opening line into a formidable weapon, but here Smyslov shows him a few new wrinkles. Vasily Smyslov vs Boris Spassky, Moscow vs Leningrad team match 1960, Alekhines defense B5, 1-0. Spassky tries the unusual Alekhines defense and is beaten in fairly short order. Vasily Smyslov vs Anatoly Karpov, USSR Championship, Leningrad 1971, English opening/Queen's Gambit at 34, 1-0. Karpov was the young rising star, but here he lasts for only 29 moves against Smyslov, who is 30 years older.